First thing, I want you to go to page number 7 of your notebook and make sure you write this on there. I'm gonna make you write like the notes first so you can see what's going on your notebook. So the first rule that we're gonna be talking about is gonna be called the quotient rule, and I want you to write your rules first just so you can have them in your notebook just in case you ever need them. Quotient rule, and it's gonna be used for exponents again. So make sure you put exponents. Alright, that's the first thing that we're gonna do. We're gonna write that rule. And what this rule is basically whenever we talk about quotient, we need about a fraction. So in this case, you're going to get a fraction. And both of your fractions are going to have an a base and an exponent. So I'm going to have x to the power of a over x to the power of v. Okay? That's the first thing that you're going to get. And that's actually how most of the problems are going to look. Now, how are we going to fix this? Well, we're going to write the base without any fractions. So you actually get rid of the, whenever you do the quotient rule, you are getting rid of the fraction. So I'm gonna write the base, which eliminates the fraction, and what we're gonna be doing with the exponents, right? A and B, we actually gonna write a. You're gonna always write the first exponent on the top minus the second exponent, which is the one on the bottom. Okay, so I'm gonna have a minus b. And that's actually how most of the problems are actually going to work. Or all the problems work exactly like that. So, let's move on. That's going to be the rule. All right, make sure you copy that on your notebook. Now, let me go ahead and do the second rule already, just to make sure that we have. This one's going to be called the negative rule. Same thing, it's going to be used for exponents. Okay? Negative rule is going to be used for exponents as well. But in this case, the way that this works is that you're going to have a negative exponent on top of your base. So we're going to have a to the negative a. So you can see that my exponent right here is a negative, right? So whenever you get something like that, we don't usually like to work with negatives in math when it comes to exponents, so we usually try and change into a positive exponent. So the way that you're going to change that negative exponent to a positive exponent is that you're going to rotate, or you're going to flip your x. All right, you might be, what do you mean? What are you talking about flipping? So I'm going to write the solutions of the formula that we usually use. All right, let me rewrite that. Okay, now you see what I did, right? So from here to here, what I did, I'm going to show the visual representation of this. I'm going to have x to the negative a, right? I'm going to put a 1 below it. What I did, I flipped this x and I put it on the bottom. And I grabbed the 1 and I put it on the top. Okay? By doing that, I have 1 over x to the negative a, right? But if you look at the answer over here, if you look at the answer over here, you can see that my exponent is a positive, meaning whenever you rotate it, you actually gonna go ahead and make your exponent into a positive. So whenever you rotate, your exponent becomes a positive. So that's why we get 1 to be the other. So make sure you put this on your notes. This is basically what you do. And the negative rule can be written in two forms. You can also have this 1 over x to the negative a. And it will turn into, I'm going to move this one up and I'm going to move this one down, right? So I'm going to have x a over 1. That's how you do those. So let me just erase real quick. Okay, and there you go. And that's going to be the rule for the negative exponents. You're going to see it a couple times in this assignment because they do have negative exponents sometimes. But for the time being, I'm going to just show you a couple problems that you're going to be able to do. This should be pretty easy. It's not as hard as people think it is. It's actually relatively easy to do. So let's say you have 5 to the 4th power, right? I think that's the first problem. And then we have 5 to the, doesn't have any power. Again, we're going to be using the quotient rule on this one. But before I go ahead and do the quotient rule, what exponent do I have on top of the bottom 5? Because you can see this 5 right here does not have an exponent, so I'm going to put an exponent of 1. So if your number or your base doesn't have an exponent, what you're going to have to do, you're going to have to go ahead and make sure that you know that it has an exponent of 1. Now I'm going to write my base, which is 5. I'm going to write my exponent on the top first, minus my exponent on the bottom, which is 1. Okay? So now I got rid of the fraction. Now I have 5 to the power of 4 minus 1. What's 4 minus 1? Well, 4 minus 1 is 3. So that equals to 5 to the power of 3. And that's it. Literally, that's all you have to do with this type of problem. Now, sometimes you're going to get something like this. I think this is also one of the problems, not too sure. We're going to get 2 to the 2nd power, and you're going to get 2 to the 3rd power. Okay? That works fine, right? Our base in this case is going to be the 2, right? Right here, our base was 5. And right here, our base is going to be 2. Okay? Now we have our bases. We know what our base is. So I'm going to write my base first. What's my exponent on top? It's going to be 2. Minus my exponent on the bottom, which is going to be 3. Okay. Now I have both exponents, right? What's 2 minus 3? Well, 2 minus 3, I know it's going to be a negative, right? So it's going to be negative 1. Okay? Like I mentioned earlier, we can get negative answers with exponents, but we just don't like to work with them. So this one right here, and I'm going to highlight it, all of this, we're going to have to change it to a positive. Okay? So we're going to be using the negative rule. Negative rule, if you remember, the negative rule said that we're going to have something, right, to the negative exponent, and we're going to have to put a 1 over it and flip it, correct? We're going to do exactly the same thing. In this case, we're going to write 2 minus 1, right? We're going to put equals. I'm going to put a 1 over, and I'm going to write this right here, but with a positive exponent on the bottom. I don't like how I wrote that one. This is very long. Alright, there we go, right? That's what we got. We got 1. We get the fraction over 2 over 1. It turns into a positive. Or, in other words, it's just 1/2. And that's my answer. It's not very hard. It's actually pretty relatively easy. Alright? So whenever you get a negative, you are going to have to flip this, so make sure you keep that in mind. Now, let's look at, I think, some of the problems. I don't know if this one's on your assignments, but I know some of the students got this type of problems. Okay, let's say we have that. Then we have r to the, I'll just do this, and r to the r. Okay? Alright, what's going to happen right here is that we're going to be working this too. And a lot of people get confused because we do have a 10 and a 6 together, right? Right in front of everything. So those are just numbers. Those are just numbers in front of your variables. They're just coefficients. Now, a lot of people get confused and they think those are going to be their base. No, that's not going to be your base. Your base is usually going to have a exponent. So what do I have on my problem that has an exponent? Yes, that would be my r and my r, right? Those two, well, I mean, the top r has an exponent, the bottom one has an invisible exponent of 1, right? So I can tell those two have exponents. So my other two, which are just numbers, are right here. Oh, shoot. I picked the wrong one. This 10 and this 6 are just numbers, okay? So I'm actually going to deal with that later. I'm just going to work on my variables right there. So I'm going to write r to the third power over r to the 1 power. I'm going to write my base. I'm going to pick my top exponent minus my bottom exponent. What is 3 minus 1? 3 minus 1 is r to the second power. Okay, so I already solved my variables, right? But I still have my fraction of 10 over 6 on the side. Now, the way that we're going to deal with this is that we're going to multiply it back together. Or in other words, whatever you have on top, you're going to put it with the top one, and whatever you have on the bottom, you're going to put it with the bottom. So 10r squared over, on the bottom I don't have anything, so it's just going to be 6. Okay, so in other words, I'm just multiplying across. Alright, let me try and do another one real quick. And that would be my answer right here. So I'm trying to look for a good one right here. Okay. This one's good. Alright. There you go. So I have an example right here, and it's going to be 2x to the third power, and then I'm going to have on the bottom one 3x and y to the third power. Yes, this is a good one to do. Alright, the problem may look very confusing. Again, your coefficient, work with those at the very end. And also work your variables first, okay? So I'm going to rewrite my problem as x to the third over x, y. Okay, I'm going to worry about everything else later. Or my numbers. So right here, how am I going to deal with this first? As you can see, I have an x right here, right? And I have an x right here. So can I actually go ahead and do the quotient rule? Yes. Alright, but if you look carefully, you can see I have a y also, right? Do I have any y's on top? And the answer is going to be no. I don't have any y's on top. Meaning that what's going to happen with this is that I'm not going to be able to actually do anything with the y. So the y is actually going to stay on the bottom, on the denominator. Okay, that one's not going to move because I don't have anything to combine it with, so it's going to just stay there. Okay, but like I said, I always work one variable at a time. Yeah, so I'm going to work x to the third power over x, right? So what is that going to give you? So I'm going to put the equal sign. So I'm going to put my base. I'm going to put 3 minus 1. What's 3 minus 1? Is going to be equal to x squared. Alright? And whenever you do this stuff like that, it's usually x, or whatever you get is always over 1. Okay? Now I have x over 1, right? But don't forget, we also have this y, so I'm actually going to put it on the bottom. So instead of just putting the 1 on there, I'm going to erase the 1, and I'm actually going to put my y to the third power on the bottom. Now, what else are we missing? We're missing our fraction, which is 2 over 3. And we're just going to multiply across. So I'm going to get 2x squared over 3 y cubed. And that's going to be my answer. Also, I can show you a different way that you can do this type of problem. Alright? And usually this is the way I was taught, but this is the way that they want us to teach you guys. So I'm going to have the same problem, right? Okay? So it's going to look kind of funny, but I'm going to put little sticks on top of my exponents. So I'm going to keep my fraction the same, right? I'm not going to change my fraction. So I'm going to have this, and I'm going to put little sticks. 1, 2, 3, right? Because I have 3 x's, right? And on the bottom, I'm going to have x and one little stick right there. And over here on my y, I'm going to have 1, 2, 3 sticks. All right. Like I said before, the y doesn't have anything on top, so it's going to stay on the bottom. It's going to remain there. Now, for the x, I do have this guy, right? And I have the other guy right here in the bottom. Right? So, what I was taught whenever I was in school, you're going to eliminate one, or if you have something on top of something on the bottom, you're just going to eliminate whatever you have on the bottom and on top. So I know I have one on the bottom, right? One stick. So I'm going to eliminate this stick. I'm going to take it out. Also, I'm going to take one on the top, right? You want to eliminate as many sticks as you can. I know this is kind of weird, but I just put it at the very end just in case this one works. So I'm going to eliminate this one, right? And so also I eliminated one of the top ones, right? So now I have 2x, and now I have 2 over 3y to the third power. Finally, this video is kind of long, so I'm going to do this one real quick. So let's do x to the second, right? Y to the third, and I'm going to have over here on the bottom, I'm going to have, actually, let's make 3. I'm going to have x to the second and y just like that to the first. Again, I'm going to put my sticks. So I'm going to have 1, 2, 3. And then y, 1, 2, 3. Then x, 1, 2. And then y, 1. Okay, so as you can see, I have 2 sticks right here. So I'm going to cancel those 2. I'm going to cancel 2 sticks over here. Over here I have 1 stick. And I'm going to cancel 1 stick. So the bottom one completely takes out everything. So we don't have any more sticks on the bottom. But if you look on the top, you're going to see that we have 1 stick left over here, and we have 2 sticks right here left over. So it's going to be x to the 1 power and y to the 2nd power. So you can do it like that too. That's how I do it. I just kind of knocked that over, see? But it's exactly the same thing as having your x to the third minus 2, right? And y to the third minus 1. It means exactly the same thing. You're going to get exactly the same answer. X over, or x and y to the 2nd power. Just wanted to add that in there. Just for future knowledge, just in case you want to do it that way. But that's basically it. So good luck. Hopefully this helped.